What's wrong with people? Hi, it's Ray from ProShaper Workshop in Charlton, Massachusetts. We're back again. We had another little hiatus last week, and there's a good reason for that. I had a chance to buy out an old line body shop. I got a tip on this body shop in Boston area that's been in business for 50 years, and they prided themselves on doing really high quality work. They did a lot of high-line foreign car work, Rolls-Royce, Bentleys, Porsches, BMWs, Aston Martins, across the board, all of it. And he saved a lot of stuff. So apparently somewhere back 20, 30 years ago, he did a job on a Aston Martin DB4, and he saved this little piece of the fender, which is a pretty cool fender. And I inquired about it on my Facebook page to see if anybody knew exactly what it was, whether it was a DB4, 5, or 6. And everybody had, well, quite a few thought that it was definitely a DB6, which I believe is like a 1966. And it has this original green paint on it. And it looks like they just hacked it off here, and they must have got another one and replaced it for some reason. I don't know why, because this looks pretty good other than this little dent here. So what my intent of showing this is that we got a lot of this stuff, and a lot of it is really good panels that can be repaired. And you know, we were working on the caddy panel, was this little filler panel that's on the bumper, and that's not a sexy panel at all. I mean, you wouldn't identify that at all if you saw it on the ground somewhere in a junkyard. This is a sexy panel. You can identify that as a hand-built aluminum. It's all aluminum, and I can't wait to strip it all down and see where all the wells are and investigate the wells and all that, and we'll be able to see what kind of work they did at Aston Martin in 1966. But this, you might be asking, Ray, why are you showing that when you're doing the caddy part? Well, the skill sets involved in making this caddy part are the exact same skill sets involved in making this Aston Martin part. And my intent on this is a sexy piece, and it's actually worth some money, some serious money. Somebody that has the Aston Martin that's got really crumpled and damaged really bad, and the metal got ripped and everything, might be a buyer for this. It could be 3 years before somebody wants to buy it, but there's potentially a buyer. But also, it's great YouTube material for my channel, and that I will show the stripping process. We'll take that paint off. We'll reveal all those wells, and then I'll straighten out this damage that's here and all the edges and everything that are bug it up a little bit. And then I'll have Mark flexible shape pattern this and gauge it. And the idea will be to show the power of the flexible shape pattern. We don't have a buck or anything. All we have is this surface. And we'll use the flexible shape pattern method to capture all these surfaces, which is super complicated, and we'll make, that's the right side, we'll flip it and make the left side. And you'll be able to see the symmetry we can create using the flexible shape pattern method, and I think it's going to be an exciting little adventure once we start on it. But right now, we got to go back to the caddy part, and like I said, building that caddy part is something that any restorer is going to have to do. You're not going to be able to make a phone call or look on the internet and find one of these. They're rare as hen's teeth. This one rotted out, probably all the others rotted out too. Now there might be 20 of these somewhere in the United States on a car or on a shelf somewhere, but it's a long struggle to find that. And whoever has it might sell it for $100, might sell it for $200, which is a reasonable price. But in all likelihood, you're not going to be able to connect with that person. It's just a really difficult challenge to find that part. So you have to say, okay, I need this part. I'm going to have to face the challenge of making it. And that's what we're doing here. And we broke it down to the two pieces. And we've got the flexible shape pattern, and we started making this area change that has to happen right on these corners. And now what we want to do is add some area. We got to locate it and add some area in the middle here, because this has a curve to it going this way. And as I showed before, when we tip it upside down, there's a radius going this way and a radius going that way. So what I want to do is I'll take this panel and I'll tip it upside down. I got to locate where I've got a wheel, and I'm going to add area right in this spot right here. And then I will do the bend. The bend will be this radius here, which we might just do right over the edge of the bench. We might do it on a pipe. We'll see what works good. And once we get that happening, and our goal will be to fill this flexible shape pattern out really nice and tight. And this one still needs a little bit more, and this one still needs a little bit more. We'll tighten them up. This will just come up really easy. Then we'll planish it, smooth it all out, and then we start doing our first tips here. As I said in the other video, if we make mistakes, we have Mr. Torch to help us out. A mistake would be, there's 2 mistakes or 3 mistakes. Working in the wrong spot, that's a mistake that shouldn't happen at all. Not enough work, meaning you didn't hit it enough, you didn't work it enough to bring it to where it needs to be. Or overworking it. If it's underworked, just hit it some more. If it's overworked, you got to have the help of Mr. Torch. Put a little Mr. Torch on there, shrink it right back down, no problem. So the goal now is to figure out where I have to put this extra area to make this roll that's going to go up this way. Now it's going to be done on the other side, but first I'll mark it on this side. So this is the perimeter. I'm just roughing it in here like this. And this is the perimeter of the bottom of it. So it's right in here that I want to add that extra area. So now I'm going to flip that over and locate that. And I put my finger like this in here. I find that bottom edge, and I go over here, and it's always usually an oval shape that you're going to add the area into. And I'm going to wheel that right now. Now, I need to wheel this not right side up. I want to wheel it upside down. So right here. If I wheel this upside down, I will get the area the way I want it. So let me get a straight edge and let's see if we can fully understand that. All right, so I got a 24-inch straight edge here, ruler, and you can see that's dead flat right here. But we can't get the 24-inch ruler in here because I'm hitting these edges, so I just sheared a little straight edge here. And you can see right here, we have a nice rock. And how much is it rocking? It's rocking about 1/4 inch. So if you put that at dead center and you get the seesaw right in the middle, you got about 1/4 inch on either side here. So right now we don't have it here. We got to induce that in, and we're going to make sure that we got it in the right spot. Technically, when Mark made this pattern, we should have put a dotted line here at the foothills of this, and maybe that's what we'll do right now so they can identify this exactly. We've got the dotted line here, but let's put the line in here right at the foothills of where that starts to go up, and then we'll punch the holes, and that will allow us to index that on really nicely, really accurate, because it's important that we get this accurate, otherwise they're going to fight with it later on. It's all about precision. You have to have patience and you have to have precision to get what your goal is trying to achieve, is a really nice, accurate part. So let's put this back on here and we'll mark where that foothill is. I like to do a dotted line all the time. So, all right, so there's our line, and then we take that little punch and we're going to punch the holes in there. I did the dotted lines, and then I've laid out this blue tape, and I idealized that line because the dotted ones are off a little bit. So now I got a nice flow, and I'm going to take and punch right through the tape here every 3/4 of an inch or so. All right, so we want to accurately locate where I need the wheel. I was just doing a quick one first, but I decided it'd be better to do it accurately. So we've got this located with these little index marks here and right here. So what we're going to use is an automatic prick punch. You can use a regular prick punch, but these are pretty cool. So that'll make 2 little punch marks right there. And then 2 little punch marks here. So now I get my pen right here and right here, right here and here. Now we can very accurately locate that. All right, so we're going to do a perimeter on this one now. That'll just make it easy to locate again if we need to. All right, and then these here, you just want to put little dash lines in. This is the beginning of the rise. All right, there's our peak. So now we're going to take this and put it on the other side as well. We need, nice to have a continuous line there, so we'll take the blue tape and connect all the dots. If you want to make an accurate part, you have to go through these steps. The only other way would be to make a hammer form, which you might spend a week making a hammer form that's accurate, unless you mold it. Molding it would be easier. So now we have our lines in on the bottom. We'll do the same lines on the top. They'll be in sync with each other. All right, so now we have it marked on both sides. And it's this side here we want to bring it up a little bit. And as I mentioned before, it's always an oval. That's where we're going to do most of our work. So somewhere in here, in between these 2 lines. So we'll put that in the wheel, and we're going to do it upside down. And let's see. Put that on there. And we want this to fit good on this side. We want that to come up a little bit. All right, now we'll wheel a little area in there. We've got the higher crown wheel on there. So there's nothing that says, okay, that's enough. So you got to kind of guess a little bit. And we're going to go just for a few minutes here, and then we'll check the flexible shape pad. And that's our blueprint to see what we're doing. Put a little in there. And put it on this side. You can see now it went down like this. But we're going to be lifting this up. See how that goes in this way? It's going to go in there that way too. So we'll try it on this side, see how that fits in. That seems to be good. This is the important side here, how this fits here, because we're reading on the positive side. And that's really reading pretty tight right in here. You can see there's no gap there. And then over here, there's a little bit of a gap, so I got to put a little more on the edge right over here. And then there's a little bit of gap here. I'm going to put a little more over in here too. So a little bit more here and a little bit more in here. I actually might have been better served to put that in there first before I pounded up the mountains on the end there, because I'm hitting them now, as you can see. But we'll be able to make it work. Give it a little more pressure. And the area is only added in the center of the wheel, so I'm always directing the panel right through where the center of the wheel is. That's where the contact area is. Each time I move it through there, that's adding area. Area means that it's going to puff up on me. It's going to rise. Because you're squeezing the metal like clay, and the surrounding metal is not being affected, so it causes, as it expands, it causes it to rise up because the surrounding metal is binding it in. And it doesn't matter if you do it with a planishing hammer, an English wheel, or a hammer and dolly, it does the same thing. I like the English wheel because it's constant contact and it leaves, I believe, the best surfaces. So that's my tool of choice, is to wheel it in with constant contact rather than intermittent contact. All hammering is intermittent contact. Wheeling is constant contact. So let's give that a shot. We'll lower that up and pull that out. See what that says. All right, now that was really loose. You can see that's pretty filled out now. Maybe a little bit loose right there. And this side, same thing. We've got that nice and tight now. So I think we're pretty close to where we want to be. So the next step is popping this up this way. Now I thought I'd be able to do it on the bench, because now we got a curve going like this. We actually want a curved surface to work with to bend that over. We have a little leverage here, so we can try pushing it with our hand, but if we don't do it with the hand, then we'll get a leather-faced slapper and we'll force that over. All right, that's what I call my fulcrum block. It's just a piece of an old skid. A lot of skids are made out of nice hardwood, so I just resurrect the wood and cut these up with a bandsaw, grind them a little bit. This has got a nice taper and it's got a curve to it, so it's pretty universal for bending over. And these are my little post dolly holders that take 1 inch diameter. So I put a moving blanket on there, make a nice soft fulcrum area, and then we'll see if we can push this over. Because I left this extra material, I have some leverage here, so that helps out quite a bit. All right, so now let's go over on the bench and do analysis of what we got. All right, so we put that radius in there, and we want to know if that radius is the right value coming up this way. So Mark had made these gauges here, which registers somewhere around in here. And you see it also contains that little tip back down, the little plateau there. And that's the index mark. So That would be a problem because I couldn't put that in, so I had to make another gauge. But now we've got to index it in properly, so we put this back on, get our pen, it's number 3 we're working with here. We look at the line, we put the dashes in, and this is the little index point right here, which is super important. So there's our line, and it'll go straight like that. You always want your gauges to be straight lines. They're just picking up that information. So we can't put this one in here because this is going to interfere. So we made this one. Just cut it out on the bandsaw. You can also use a razor, and we'll just sand it a little bit to get the fuzz off here. And then we index it on here, and that tells me I got to come up a little bit more. You can see how that needs to come up more. So this is pretty constant, so you know, I probably best to put the other gauge lines in here and see how much I got to come up with it. So we'll put the other gauge lines in, and we'll move that up a little bit more on the fulcrum block, and we'll assess where we are. 3 is that. 2. Yeah. And so it's about halfway through. All right, so let's pop it up some more. All right, so we're going to try to bring that radius up a little further. If we go too far, it's easy to pull it back. It's not a problem. Everything's correctable. All right, so now we'll put that 3 gauge in there. Oh, I didn't put the index mark on both sides. Index marks on both sides. I yell at all my students because they don't put the index marks on. All right, now you can see we got to pull that back just a little bit. So we pull this back a little. Not bad. Getting close. No cigar yet, but pretty close. All right, let's check the rock and the flexible shape pattern now. And it all fits in there nice. Now you see where right here we've got to get a blend going in here. Same thing on this side, where it just flows right together nicely. Let's put it on this side. And that is looking pretty good there. And let's check our rock. We'll compare our rock. Are we too much? Are we too little? Are we just right? I don't know. We'll find out. So remember, this is an 18-inch straight edge we made, and we got a 1/4 inch of rock here, and we put that there. And it looks like we might be a little bit strong. It's in the ballpark though. I'll go for that. Get the clay out of the way. We got a little bit of a twist here. We'll take that twist out a little. I'm going to have to leave that in there. It wants to be in there right now. So, the next step is, let's see if we can dial this radius in a little better. And looks like I got to tip that down a little. And it has to bend more at the root right here a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty good now. It might be off just a little bit. We'll still get that in a different way. So now the next step is, let's see if we can get this to blend together better. You can see that we have this flow problem right here, and that should show up in the flexible shape pattern. We'll put this on with the magnets. We got our radius in there, and we still have to pump this up a bunch. Looks like that's coming undone. We gotta fix that. Gotta repair that with a little piece of tape. Didn't have enough overlap on there or something, and it broke. So that's got to come out to meet that. But we'll fix this. Mark will fix that, and I'll get set up for knocking that up a little bit. So I'm going to try to blend that in a little bit here. Yep, that's looking better. And we'll put the flexible shape pattern back on. Mark fixed a little cut there, and the idea is to fill this right out. Looks like we got to go up quite a bit right here. So I got a pretty pointy hammer here, and when you're hammering on the bench, things go flying, so we're going to move a bunch of stuff first here. There we go. The spot that, always look for the spot that's the worst. And this is a great lesson right here, because this is so common on just about every panel. You've got a deficiency here, and you will not get what you're looking for until you fill that up. And the highest point is right there. That's where it makes the tip to that back plane. So right there, which we have marked on the other side, is where we need to knock it over. Now these are just Delrin pieces I've cut up and put a chisel end on. These won't bite into the metal. If you use a metal chisel, you can use a metal chisel, you have to round it way over, but these will do the same thing, but it's highly unlikely you're going to tear the metal with these as much as you would with a metal one. So this Delrin is strong enough you can actually hit right with it. But I do make the holders. We do sell the little kit for the round ones. We should probably make a kit for the smaller ones too. So here we're using this, just a straight material, which gets all mushroomed otherwise. So. This bench is a lousy bench to do it on because it's vibrating. I probably should move the operation to right where the leg is, and it won't vibrate so much. So we're closing in on it. It's probably 3/16 of an inch when we first started, and well, still maybe it might have been a quarter, because it's still about 3/16. There's always go for the worst spot. It's right in here, the worst spot. So I'm going to take and hit that. We're going to move over to where the leg is, maybe get a little less bounce out of this bench here. Take that. Now, as I mentioned before, if we do screw up and hit the wrong spot, we can fix it. If we go too much, we can fix it. It looks like the whole backside needs to come up a bunch too. So that I might be able to do with a hammer. Anybody's entertaining the idea of making this panel with a wood station buck, forget about it. It isn't going to happen. You have to either make a hammer form of some sort or a flexible shape pattern to get an accurate reproduction of this panel. All right, so we want to continue on down right here. We're almost there. You see that's touching now, and it's almost touching there. So I'm going to pump that line up a little bit all the way over to here, and that blend's going to be a lot nicer then. It still looks horrible, but have faith it's going to come together. We'll try this one here. As I mentioned at the opening, a lot of people are restoration oriented, but in a lot of cases, if you're restoration oriented, you have to make panels like this. And if you can make this panel, you don't have to be exclusively restoration oriented. You can make scratch build stuff. You gotta just go for it. There's nothing more fun. Restoration is great too, but after you've done a bunch of them, they get a little old because you're doing a paint by numbers system almost with restoration. You're following a plan that already exists, and if you're doing a scratch build, if you're doing a copy of a car or a design, you're also following a plan. But there's so many places where you can exercise your own thinking and add your own ideas to it and make improvements, actually. We've got the advantage of all of today's new technology and the hindsight of what works and what doesn't. And a lot of this work is handwork. Everybody thinks there's some kind of machine that you just push the button and all this happens automatic. It doesn't. You have to make a blueprint and follow the blueprint. And that's what I call the flexible shape pattern. It's a blueprint. All right, so we're getting there. We still got to come up a little bit more. Maybe on the back side just a little bit more. We don't have to get it perfect right now. We'll work this out later. Maybe jump to the other end. Get the other end a little closer. We'll get that in a little closer. Now that's filling out pretty good, except for right there. I'm going to pump that right there, a little bit more right in there. Right there. So the game is hit it 2 or 3 times and then check it so you don't get too far out in left field. That's coming nice. All right. So that's filled up pretty good now. And now, let's see if we'll fill this one up. Now you can see it's all rough there. We got to planish that out. These are where the hammer blows were. That can be planished out with a slapper and dolly or a hammer and dolly. And this is gonna define it really well, is when we put this, while we pounded this in, we're gonna pound that in too. And that will put this nice peak line on here. And the little trick is getting this little saddle in here just right. So, but it's getting late again. I hate to say it, but I think this is all we can do tonight, because this is going to be about a 4-parter, I think, before we really define this really nicely. So I hope you enjoyed what we did tonight, and we'll continue on maybe Thursday, I hope. This has been a real challenging panel. It doesn't look like much right now, but you'll be surprised how nice it comes out. And we have a lot of cool stuff. Like I said, I bought that old body shop up. I got Ferrari panels, I've got Aston Martin panels, I've got trim that we can take dents out, all kinds of great stuff. We got the Scout to work on. I got a Jag nose that we bought, a complete Jag nose. That needs a lot of work, and we'll be doing that in the next couple months or so. So we got a rich supply of really good things to show all the techniques of coach building, metal shaping, restoration on, and that's what we intend to do. And we hope to do more and more videos, and we need more support from you. And remember always to tell your friends in other car clubs and on Facebook or whatever about our channel, and please subscribe and hit that bell that announces when we put up a new video, and give us the likes. And thanks for watching. It's Ray from ProShaper Workshop in Charlton, Massachusetts. Remember, metal is clay.